Hi, everyone. I'm here with Susannah Ford Crush today. Hi, Susannah. How are you?
Michelle, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me give this opportunity to tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name, as you said, is Susannah Ford Crush. I live in England. I'm pretty much an all-round artist, I would say, mainly focusing on writing and poetry in particular. Also, I'm a singer and also a photographer, and particularly a travel photographer as well. I was actually going to be due to be in India this month. Unfortunately, due to the current situation, I'm not there, but that would have been my 31st country that I've traveled to. So yeah, kind of a bit of an all-rounder, really.
That's pretty cool. I think we touched briefly on the photography, and I forgot about that part. So, okay, so you travel the world taking like nature photography, people. What kind of photography do you do?
I tend to stay in large cities or sort of smaller European cities as well. So it's a lot of kind of people and places and architecture and just kind of a little bit of nature as well. But I'm mainly focusing on just real life for people. So whenever I travel, capturing people as they're going about their life, or beautiful architecture and churches, and basically other places of worship. I've really got a thing for as well. So that's pretty much what I do when I go around traveling.
That's pretty cool. My travel's limited to like this room and the living room. So crossing states lines gets a little fun.
Yeah.
So we met on Instagram through
Yeah.
poetry, right? So
Right. Yeah, we
your
did.
your poetry is really fascinating to me. And then I got to also hear your music. And so let's first talk about your poetry and then kind of segue into music. So that's something we
Yeah.
both have in common. As far as the poetry goes, music I do nothing with. I
Okay.
listen.
Yeah. Sure. That's fine. Okay. So yeah, my poetry. I think I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, I think I've been writing poetry since I was about 8 or 9, maybe even a little bit younger. And it kind of started off as making songs with my older brother. So we would need lyrics to add to that, to the songs that we were creating. And I think it kind of just flowed from there. I started more sort of writing poetry than the lyrics, and it kind of got noticed at school a little bit. My parents picked up on the fact that I was pretty good. Um, and I went back to it and did other things throughout life and through my teens as well. But I really picked up on it much more professionally, I would say, in my late 20s. Seemed like a right time to sort of have the confidence to be able to put my work out there a bit more. And at that point, obviously, social media was a great platform. So yeah, I've been using Instagram and Facebook just to put my work out there, to meet other writers and poets in particular and connect. So yeah, I've just been going sort of one step at a time, and it's been getting bigger and bigger and much more important to me. So yeah.
Nice. It's really fun to put your work out there. I had never used social media for that purpose until recently. I'd
Hmm.
always focus on the business side of things. Hadn't really done like the writing stuff was kind of this low key, did it behind the scenes, would perform in
Yeah.
different churches. In my 20s, I did like the local coffee shop thing when that
Oh
was
wow.
popular. Yeah. And then I
Right.
put it down for a while. And
Yeah.
so with publishing the book recently, that was this chance of like, okay, do I just want to have a book kind of laying out there, or should I
Mm.
really like start using my voice in this way too? And
Sure.
the poetry is interesting because I'm definitely a writer at heart.
Mm.
So like I love to write. I love words. I'm never short-winded.
Oh yeah, me
Brevity
too.
is yeah. So when you do poetry and you have to try to like confine it, and especially this new Instagram kind of poetry where it's like a thought.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, like they're great and I enjoy them, but I read them and I'm like, I'm so not that brief. So I
Yeah.
enjoy that yours can fit within the window nicely. Mine are like
Yeah.
2-point font when I try to share them.
Yeah, kind of a bit of both, actually. I have to say, I'm using like the shorter ones when my inspiration is a little more low. So I will just kind of do those. It's much more easier for me to get those out there because it keeps people tuned into me. So wait for the big ones when I feel like I'm ready to produce something that's that big. So yeah, basically,
Okay.
yeah,
Nice, nice. And then
yeah,
now you also do music, and I've heard a couple of your covers, and they have been
yeah.
beautiful. You have an amazing voice. I really
Thank
enjoy it.
you. It's
How
something
long
that
have you been singing?
Um, again, I think it's probably about the same amount of time as I've been writing poetry, sort of, definitely pre-teens. I was noticed by a singing and music teacher in middle school, so I would have been about 8 or 9 at that point, and she used to pick me out to do solos in the school choir. And also, I remember a particular time around Christmas when we were sort of all practicing carols during the morning assembly, where we'd all get together and read stories to each other and everything. And she picked me out. She made me stand up in front of the whole school and sing the first verse of "Once in Royal David's City," and this was completely impromptu as well. So I hadn't had any preparation whatsoever. So those sort of things used to happen quite frequently because it was picked up that I had quite a strong voice quite early on in my life. But then the same with my poetry, I did put it down for really like a long time, years and years. And then it's only in the last few years that I've really kind of picked it up again. And my dad's actually a singer, so I do sing with him in sort of pubs and clubs and stuff like that. So that's been an inspiration for me to get back to it as well. So yeah, pretty cool.
How's that, singing with your dad?
We don't actually sing together. He will
Oh,
sort of
okay.
perform after me or something, but we are actually going to work possibly on maybe singing together at some point. That is something that we do talk about here and there. But yeah, mainly it's like, I'll go on as one act and he'll go on as another act. But yeah, I'm kind of still together as father and daughter in a sense. So it's really,
Okay.
I just love it so much. It's something I can really express myself. And as you said, you've heard a few of my covers, and I am focusing on covers at the moment, but what I really want to do is branch out and start writing my own material like I used to do. Possibly meet some other people to collaborate, maybe some other musicians. So that's where I really want to be taking it sort of long term. So I'm sticking with the covers to get people interested in my voice to begin with, you see. So yeah, that's where I'm going with it.
Okay, and that makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of like with poetry. You start with the thought type poetry and then kind of like, oh, by the way, I have these 30 verse ones too, and
Yeah,
move on. Wait till
yeah.
you see this one that covers 7 pages.
Oh, yeah. I've got a few of those. Oh god, yeah, definitely.
When I was doing the book, I have this one that's spoken word that I do, and
Yeah.
it's the only spoken word that made it into the poetry book because it was like so long. It covers like 15 pages, and I'm just like, oh my god,
That is long. I don't know if
it's
it's ever been
very
that long.
well. I mean, I might be exaggerating about 15 pages, but it's a 15-minute spoken word poem. I think when I'm nervous, I can do it in like 7.5. Like I recorded it one day to share, and I think I did it in 7.5, but I am like emotionless and just like fighting to get through it. And so, which is why I like never, I have actually a challenge from my coach that I have to go live or post a recording of me doing one of my poems. And I'm like, it's so not going to be that one.
No way.
But, the long ones are interesting because I feel like, you get the shorter ones. So similar to the covers, right, in music is like the shorter ones help people to see your voice, see your subject matter, see if they're interested in you. But then it's really the longer ones where you have the chance to see the depth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like the short ones, now some of them in one of the writers groups I belong to, oh my gosh, a couple of them, I'm like, you said that in 3 words? Or like even like 3 sentences, right? I'm like, how is that? Like, I actually shared one on Instagram yesterday that this girl had said exactly the same thing I had said like a few days earlier to a friend. But for me, it took like a lot of words. And for her, it was like 7 words on an Instagram. I was like, what?
You're taking a lot of emotion out of it as well if you condense, I think. So, I mean, sometimes, but yeah. We'll go deeper. There's more to it.
Yeah, I've noticed, and I don't know if it's a cultural, but I've noticed a lot of the Indian writers are very good at the brevity. I don't know if that's only because my exposure to so many that write that kind of poetry is from India, or if it's like a thing, like maybe something in there. I haven't been to India yet. It's a dream of mine. One day. Yeah. I'm so fascinated with the country and just the system.
Yeah, me too. I would have been there, right?
Oh, that's really hard. I have friends in Bangalore that have offered if I ever come out, I can visit with them and stay there. And so I plan to. My daughter's in 6th grade, and so my hope is that when she graduates, I will take off. So
that's a great idea. You've got Yeah, absolutely. You really have to.
Yeah, that is my plan because I was born overseas in Germany, and so I've always wanted to go back. Growing up, it had always been as soon as my oldest daughter graduates, I would go, and
Yeah.
I was only going to be 35 at that point. I was so excited, and
Yeah.
then when she was in, I believe 8th grade,
Mm.
I forget specifically which grade, but when I turned 30, like a little before 31, I had my youngest daughter. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, okay, travel plans put aside. Um, my youngest daughter has so many fears, being autistic, that she just would never fly. Flying is not, it's too much,
Mhm.
like international, she would never do. But so all that said, what is your favorite kind of music to perform?
My favorite kind of music, I think it's all about where my voice sits well. And that tends to be kind of bluesy, um, rocky, sort of that kind of, classic rock in particular, actually. But yeah, anything a bit jazzy, bluesy, that kind of thing. Because I'm an alto, so I'm quite low for a woman. I sit really comfortably like that, and that kind of, it's sort of the breathy, low tones kind of lends itself to sort of jazz and blues and rock a little bit more. So that's those categories, those genres are where I sit best, I think. But that doesn't mean to say that I can't do anything else. I am quite versatile, but that's tends to be where is my go-to. Let's say that's what I prefer doing, really. So yeah, I mean, I would like to express myself, writing a few more songs in that category as well. So we'll see where that takes me, I suppose.
Now, so you're a writer, so you have the writing side from the poetry and then you sing.
Sure.
So is it just the being able to come up with the melody and put it to like the actual music? Is that where is it a
It
struggle
tends
or
to
what?
come around from sitting and playing around with the guitar, picking out a
Okay.
few chords. You just kind of fall into a melody often, and a whole song will take shape out of that. Really, you'll just start to sort of sing along. It might be something sort of current in your mind that you're thinking or feeling, and you just run with it. Just like poetry, as when you're writing, you just go with it. You do the editing afterwards, but it's about that freedom of that emotional flow that has to come out at that point. So yeah, if I'm sitting strumming the guitar or whatever, that would just be a moment in time where I'll just let my feelings flow. The lyrics will come out, and the melody will just come with it. Not necessarily always in the same order either. I could produce a melody and then fit some lyrics to it, or I'll write a poem and decide that that's actually really good lyrics to build a song around as well. So it's kind of versatile in that sense.
That's cool. That's cool. I with poetry. So first of all, confession, I don't edit.
Really.
I really, when I was writing the book, I realized this is
Mm.
I I'll tweak. So
Sure.
like I remember when I first wrote See Me, it was a blog. That's how that
Yeah.
started. It was a blog
Okay.
that one of my friends was like, you could do spoken word. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't. Like, you guys memorize this stuff, like I do writing or I do poetry.
Sure.
I can't do this spoken word where you guys have rhythms. Like, I'm totally
Really.
not rhythmic at all. And so he challenged me to it. And I had wrote that blog and there was so much emotion in it. And
Yeah.
so I remember being at work one day and thinking of, I wonder what kind of line would work into that, because I
Mm.
had this poem, but there was no real word scheme. Like, I mean, I had this blog, but not this
Sure.
word scheme that you kind of need to get into that spoken format. And so I remember like going into the restroom and coming out and being like, I got it. And there's this
Really.
line in there that says, unlike the other men with whom I've connected hips and locked lips before they ever knew my name, he will
Oh.
not leave me rowing he will not leave me alone rowing to the shore. And
Yeah.
so my other thing is I never remember anything, first of all. And so I'm like, oh, maybe that's how they remember it, is because they have these schemes. Because I can
Yeah.
remember that part of the poem. I can remember a part about like laying on my mat bleeding out while others
Mhm.
weren't. But I could never sit here and tell you the whole poem. Even for my short ones, I have one that's 6 sentences. I couldn't tell you all six of what it's
Really.
got. I have a terrible memory. I can remember
I think
other
it's
people's
about the
songs.
scheme.
Yeah, I really do. I think that, or when you put it to music, because I can remember Langston Hughes' Dreams. I can
Yeah.
remember that. I had to recite it. You know how you said like your teacher called you on the spot. When I was at Groton Heights Elementary School, they were like, Michelle, we need you to recite this. And I remember like,
Mm-hmm.
the whole hold fast to dreams for if dreams die. And I'm like, it mortifies me when people don't know of Langston Hughes today, because I'm like, what? My childhood, like that's
Everything.
Langston Hughes. Like, how do you not? Someone asked me the other day who is 24, well, like a couple of weeks ago now, but they were like, well, who are some classic poets? And I'm like, Langston Hughes for sure. Oh, well, what kind of poems does and I was like, oh, my heart, right. Oh my God. But so
Wow.
it's interesting that you say that though, because
Yeah.
so first of all, I'm not a big editor. For
Mhm.
my own poetry, I tend to write it. That process of getting that one tweaked to become a spoken word bored me to tears. I
Did
was
it really?
like, yeah, I
Wow.
was like, I don't know if it's that I I like my stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Cool.
not like over the top, like, oh, that's the best, but I like my stuff. I never put
You have to
anything out
like
there I don't enjoy. Right. But yet when it
absolutely.
comes to editing, I'm like, I like one and done. I'm like that in my
Mhm.
writing though too. Like once I've written a blog, going back, my ADD is so severe that I
Yeah.
actually got tested one time. The second time I do anything, I'm only at 30% capacity. So
Yeah.
like I had to do
Okay.
this exercise. The first time I got 100%, I was intently focused. The second
Mhm.
time around, it was like my brain was like, I already did this. Like what else is going on, squirrel?
That's it. You're done. Finished.
I'm
It's
done.
over.
I'm like, my brain just is not engaged. So now
Yeah.
with that though, one of the things I love is sometimes I'll come up with a thought that is like the last line of the poem, or I'll come up with the middle and then I'll build around that. So it's almost like I
Oh,
edit
I do
while I
that
go.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do that too. There's so many times where I've come up with a really great ending of a poem first, and I just know that that's just going to be, such a great poem that's going to build to that final climax line. So I've always wondered if other poets, I mean, I haven't discussed this with other poets. I don't know if they ever work like that as well. I kind of felt that was kind of quite unique in a sense. But yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting that you're saying that too. Like you just build from one line, and that's just create
Oh,
a
for
whole.
sure. Yeah,
It's so
I'll
do that.
go. Several of my poems, actually, that's where it came from, is I would be driving
Yeah.
down the road and I would think, like for one of them, it says, it took ending the idea of us for me to find the beauty that already existed within me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just driving down the road and I was thinking of this relationship where we weren't friends anymore. But I was
Sure.
like, it was interesting in that once I stopped the idea of us being more than friends, that's when
Mhm.
I was able to see like I'm already enough as I am. And that
Yeah.
was this wild concept and I'm like, but that's not all there is to that. There's more. And so
Oh yeah.
that's where it became this poem. I forget what I ended up, I think I called it It's Not the End or something like that. And it
Mhm.
became about what I thought was this ending
Yeah.
actually turned out to be like literally the beginning, because it was after I wrote that poem where I
Oh,
finally got really motivated to bring the whole book together. So it was literally this beginning.
yeah.
So
That's
are
very
you
cool.
okay technology wise on your side? Can you see me okay?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
All right, perfect. It's cat caught a few times. So if you guys are watching this, just bear with us. We are across the pond here. So we're
Yeah.
this is our first time. It's actually my first time zooming with somebody across the pond since doing elevation e-groups. So
Oh,
we had Susie from Ireland would join us from
mhm.
now and then. And I think sometimes when you go across the pond, it sometimes does glitch. So coming back to your music, you did a great cover of Dream a Little Dream.
Oh yeah, Mama Cass. Amazing.
Yes.
I was really nervous about that one in particular because that song is a real favorite of mine, and Mama Cass is just such a legend. So I always hope that I have done it any kind of justice at all. So yeah, I mean, in one sense I didn't want to be too like her version, but I kind of think I've probably ended up being a little bit more like her than I wanted to be in a sense. But that's just because I have listened to that song over and over and over for years, so it's hard to sing it and retain a lot of uniqueness to it because she is all over that song. So yeah, that's why I said I can't remember what I said exactly at the beginning, but I did say something to her I can't remember now. I haven't played that one in a while. I say something like Mama Cass, I hope I do this justice, or something like that.
I think
But you know, if you
that is
play,
exactly. Yep.
yeah, if you play it, you'll hear that little thing there at the beginning. So yeah, that was such a fun one to do. I really enjoyed that, and I think it sits well with my voice. So yeah, that's a good one.
You did a wonderful job with that one.
Thank you.
So I had never heard that song until I watched the movie. And
Oh yeah.
Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, I think, were in that. And you know, they had the dream where like the bodies all switch and he becomes this older person, and in that
Yeah.
he sings that song. And so
I don't even know the movie.
oh my gosh, it's a classic from well, I'm in my 40s, so when we were growing up. Okay, I thought we were around the same age. Growing up, that was, you know, Corey Feldman here in America anyway. Corey Feldman was like everything.
Oh yeah, I know Corey. Yeah.
Okay, across the pond too. So he was in that, and it's him and this, like, I forget the other girl's name, but she played Lainey, and they are running one day. It was your classic, what was popular when we were growing up with the whole switching bodies kind of thing. It's like a late 80s, early 90s movie, I believe. I'll send you a link if I can find one online. But
definitely.
It was the first time I'd ever heard this song, and this song Time Runs Wild from that movie, I always just have remembered. I had never actually heard the Mama Cass version. And
really?
I hadn't, not for years. Like I was well into my 30s, you know, just within the last decade of being able to hear that song. And then I heard your version, and I'm like, I really like it when sung by females. I really like how your guys' voice, especially when it's at lower register.
Exactly. Yeah, it
what
works.
What is your favorite song that you do?
Oh my favorite song that I do? Oh, there's so many. That's a big question. I'm gonna be
I
here.
like to throw a big one soon.
There's so many. That is one of my favorites for sure. Dream a Little Dream. I think there's I don't know if you have the artist Katie Tunstall in America. I don't know if she's over there.
I'm not sure.
She's a guitarist. She's kind of bluesy, a bit rocky. I like a lot of her music. So she's probably her voice is quite similar to mine actually. So her music is quite easy to do for me. I don't have to change register or anything with her. So yeah, a lot of her music I like. Classic rock. A group called Free, and there's a song called Wishing Well. So I haven't done that one yet. I haven't recorded that, but that's going to be my next one. So look out for that. So it's Well by Free. I think it's going to be my next one. So yeah, that's another favorite. Anything sort of 60s, 70s classic rock. Janis Joplin, anything by her. I'm quite good at singing. Quite enjoy that sort of vibe that she's got going. So yeah, anything like that really. Just bluesy, anything jazz, that kind of stuff really. But yeah, when it comes to actually saying like one favorite song right across the board, I don't think I can actually answer that, to be honest. There's too many. There's just way too many.
Okay, so let me throw another one at you. If you could record any song outside of blues, like your natural range, which one would you record? Have you ever thought about that?
It's a tricky one as well, to be honest, because there's just so many. Oh gosh.
Okay, so there are like ones you hear that you would be like, oh, I would love to do my version of that.
Yeah, sometimes there is. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm at the moment I'm kind of focusing on ones that I already know and I already perform live quite a lot. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes if you put the radio on and there's a new song that comes on, you might not know like the artist or anything, and I just think, yeah, that sort of resonates with me on quite a deep level. That's something I'd like to do. But again, yeah, that's a difficult one to say sort of like categorically there's a particular one or anything. So yeah, just depends on my mood on the day as well. That's kind of the same with like poetry as well, isn't it? It just depends on how you're feeling, like, you know, what comes out. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, it's fine. That's perfect. So on that about moods, I forget if it was you and me that were talking back, but like I love to write from a, like, I guess you could say a negative place, but my poetry's on it. Like pain is fuel for me. And
Yeah,
so it's
totally.
been interesting because you can tell, I noticed this when I was going back through my poetry, and right now I'm going back for
Mm.
like possibly a surprise second poetry book, but this
Okay.
time hitting on some more of like, I don't really want to say it's social justice because I
Yeah.
didn't know that term growing up, but I have all these poems about like child abuse. And then like I have this one from this woman, she's Jamaican. And I
Okay.
wrote this poem of like from her perspective what life was like in America in the early 90s and how different it was.
Cool.
And then I
Yeah.
have another poem that's written I actually it was so the way I came into poetry, I've been writing since I was 6, 7, 8 years old as well. I would write in school. Well, I got to be in my freshman year of high school,
Mhm.
and no, sophomore. It was what they called a lower at Norwich Free Academy here. And
Okay.
I got into history class and he had asked us to write a paper, Mr. Gear. And
Yeah.
he said, this sucks. And I
Mm.
was like, what? Because at that point in my life, I'd been accoladed so many times. I'd been published in different poetry books. And so
Sure.
I was like, what do you mean my writing sucks? And he goes,
Mm.
there's no point to this. There's no beginning. There's no end. It's just a bunch of words about slavery. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, so like, what are you saying? And
Yeah.
so he went to my English teacher, Mrs. Francis, and the two of them talked, and I had to stay after school because
Yeah.
she was like, no, but she's an amazing writer. So there's a
Mm.
disconnect here. There's something in maybe the format of this report writing or something like that. And so I was able to learn. And then he made me perform a long form poem where
Yeah.
I had to show up dressed as a slave who had come from
Mm.
Africa to America in the height of the like when slavery was, I forget like what year it was, but
Yeah.
slavery
Yeah.
was popular. I'd come over and I had to explain in this poem what it
Mhm.
was like on the ship, what it was like arriving, what it was like working in the fields. And I remember by the end of it, I had my whole class in tears. I
Oh
was
my.
in tears, like I was so moved, and
Really?
I still have that poem. And so I was thinking like that's the stuff that it doesn't make a good first book because it's all very long. Another
Yeah.
one was Edgar Lee Masters style. There was this
Okay.
poem called he used to do poems where he would give every person a name, and then the poems were all this persona. And I did one about a young girl who was abused, and it was based off a story from the news. And so did we freeze up? Can you hear me okay?
Really?
Okay. We just froze up for a
I can hear you.
second.
And you're frozen. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
there
okay
we go. Now we're
now.
coming back slowly. And so those type poems, it's really interesting because when you go back,
Mhm.
um, you could tell they're written from a place of pain, whether it's my own pain or noticing pain in somebody else. So
Yeah.
I just said
Yeah.
a whole lot there, but so do you find that same thing? Do you write from a
I.
place of pain, or do you find yourself writing from pleasure as well, so
I.
to
I.
say?
I would say pleasure comes into it. I can write for romantic, but more often than not, in fact, probably about 99% of my work is much more based on pain or, um, relationships, heartbreak, that kind of thing. And I find it's a more poignant feeling. So I guess that negativity has more power to it, which is, it always feels like it's such a shame to have to say that, because you always want the happiness and the joy of life to be the more important and the more poignant. And although the happiness and the joy is kind of more important, I think the pain is equal in some senses, because without that, how can you experience and fully appreciate all of the good? So I
Mhm.
think that my work being coming from a place of pain, um, is, I suppose, yeah, there's more power to it, I guess. Yeah, I place a lot of importance on that as well, because I grow through it as well. What you go through, you grow through. I always think so. Yeah, I do a lot more writing about pain and heartache and difficulties of life. I think that also bonds people to you, connects people to you a lot more as well. I think people connect through pain a lot easier, because it's kind of a feeling of, it's kind of cathartic in a sense, I guess. When you discuss the things, the negative things you've gone through, and find that someone else appreciates or has experienced that too. So yeah, it's a good bond for people. So I guess that's another reason why people have sort of picked up on my work and really appreciated it a lot as well. So yeah, it's interesting though. I've never met someone who has said, no, I write much more about happiness. Never ever in my life.
Yeah,
No, it's,
nor
isn't
have
it?
I. Nor have
Yeah.
I. And I think that's an interesting, I don't know what's the word I want to use, but it's
Hmm.
like I have in the book I tried to write a happy poem. And when I was
Yeah.
going through and weeding out the poems, I remember saying like, no, I want to put that in there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
show people that you can try something and suck at it. The
Sure.
poem is horrible. It's called For Your Love. I was trying to write like this great, like exciting, happy poem about Jesus and his love for us. And oh, it
Hmm.
flopped. I don't come from, and it's like, if you know me, I'm not a miserable person. I'm
Yeah.
the
Sure.
cheerleader for people. I'm the one who's always like, no, Susannah, you're going to get through this. We're going to go. When I
Yeah.
was going
Absolutely.
through my own trials over the last few years,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to talk to myself. Like I was like, that's not who I am. But I
Yeah.
noticed that I think what it is with pain is there's so many people that experience pain. This is my theory, just
Okay.
based on
Okay.
what I've learned recently, since I'm now in a season of celebration while
Sure.
many people around me are not.
Absolutely.
I feel weird celebrating around some of my friends because it
Ah,
feels almost like I'm rubbing it in. But yet, when you are
yeah.
miserable, have you ever really felt like, oh, I shouldn't tell anybody I'm not? It's
Oh yeah.
almost like you can't wait to broadcast it. Like, well, no,
So
I'm not
true.
having a great day. Like,
Yeah.
it's not until you've had multiple ones and you've been in it for a long time
Yeah. Yeah.
that you start to go, oh, well, you know what? I'm kind of tired of talking about this. So I'm just going to shut up so I'm not the negative Nelly or however that.
Exactly. Enough is enough. You get to that point, don't you?
Yeah. But it's like
Definitely.
a long time. It's
Yeah.
almost like when you're having a bad day, you invite. I was telling, I came home yesterday and I had been in Starbucks. And
Okay.
so the line started at the front of the store for the drive through because it's only drive through open right now.
Of course.
It
Yeah.
was way too long. It was totally unnecessary, but it's Starbucks. Let's
Yeah.
just end the conversation right there. We don't have to define anything else. Well, this
Hmm.
man is driving by, and it was like his day was made better to tell us all what explicitives we were for waiting in such a long line. And I was like, but do you feel better? Like, did you feel better rolling your window down and calling us all names and
Wow.
making sure he drove slowly? It was like a drive-by with words. He drove
Oh
by
my god.
nice and slowly so that every word sprayed towards our cars
Like
to tell
bullets.
us what idiots, yeah, to tell us what idiots we were and that the coffee wasn't that good. And I was like, honey, you clearly don't
Hey,
drink the same coffee I'm drinking because, like, every day, thank you,
that's your
Starbucks,
thing.
because I'm awake at 3:30 in the afternoon because of you. You know?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so it was really interesting because I'm like, you know what? If he had thought it was great coffee, would he
Yeah.
have like taken the time to roll down his window and be like, "Yay, you're waiting"?
No
Like we
way.
love to express our misery to one
It's
another.
amazing, isn't it?
So
It is amazing.
very
It's the
interesting.
human condition, you know? It's just
We'll have
that's what
to
it
we'll have to figure out how to change that. You know, there'll be some like terrible happy poetry coming out just to try to
is.
change that.
We need to flip things, yeah. Especially now, we need that happiness. Yeah,
Me
positive.
too. We'll just call them like suck poem number one, suck poem number two. Like
Yeah,
it's terrible, but hey, it's happiness.
definitely.
Uh,
Let's
so
do that.
so on that note, let's talk a little bit because we had talked kind of in the pre-show about during this whole pandemic thing. You've got the
Yeah.
two modes of people where some people are finding their creative voice, and then
Yep.
others almost feel like they have to shut it down. What method and where are you at in this whole thing?
Oh my goodness. I have never ever been so creative. It's so intense as well. Like the inspiration, it's not necessarily coming because of the pandemic. My inspiration is coming from the same places it always comes from, but because everything's basically just shut down, pretty much life in general, society in general has shut down. It's giving me the opportunity to pick up on that inspiration from the areas I normally pick it up from so much more. And I've got all that time because like so many people, I'm not working very much. I mean, most days I'm not getting paid work at all. Luckily the government is helping out, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's giving me the time and the ability to tune into myself and to my surroundings so much more. It's even things like how quiet it is now. It's like no planes going over, hardly any cars on the road, and that quietude is just so powerful for anyone creative, and you know as well as I. And it's just, wow, it's sparking so much in me at the moment. I'm unstoppable. There's so much coming out. I think we were saying the other day as well, actually, like your posts on Instagram are inspiring me as well.
Yeah.
And I can't really pick like one reason why that is, but I think it's just in general, the things that you're saying is sparking things in me, because I'm able to listen to myself that much more. So yeah, it's just an overload in my brain. Like it's just coming out everywhere. It's amazing.
That's so inspiring to hear. Like it really encourages me, because so one of the things I've noticed, I'm on the opposite side in terms of I didn't slow down at all. I got busier. So
Really?
because of the work I do, now people have time to write books. They have time to think about their voice. So I
Yeah.
picked up 3 new clients in this time. I've got 2 calls next week with individuals who want to come on board. And
Sure.
so it's been this interesting, okay, how much do I take on before I now can't be creative? And then also this line of, I'm finding that like I'm taking melatonin now at night to sleep because my mind just is going. So I'm picking up new clients. So I've got that creativity from their projects. Plus I've got the creativity from my projects. I keep getting these sentences and these lines. And like I said, just these thoughts that I want to expand into poems. I've got this running, I used to keep them on sticky notes. My sticky notes is now a notepad because it's turned into so many things, like even yours about coloring outside the lines.
Oh yeah.
That phrase, like it's just all these things that I hear and I'm like, oh, I could pick up on that. Oh, I heard that. I was so teasing with a friend of mine last night. There was one of the poets shared this like erotica poem, went totally over my head that's what it was. I don't operate in that world.
Oh, wow.
Totally missed that's what was going on. Can you hear me? Oh no.
It's fine. It's cool.
Oh, you can. Okay. So I read this poem and I'm like, oh my God, I feel your heartache. I mean, I felt it. I was like, oh my God. And he was like, yeah, so that was erotica. And I was like, oh, not that kind of pain. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm blushing. I was like, okay, clearly I'm too young to read this. But it was really interesting because what he shared in this like very sexual overt way, I missed because I don't operate in that world. So for me, it was like, shoop. And I picked it up as this heartache of like, oh my gosh. And I was like, that was really interesting to me. There was a specific line is why I felt so much heartache. So I have like all these ideas and they're running. And then on top of that, I work for a nonprofit part-time. Okay. And so I'm doing that work and getting inspired because we work with business owners. And so we're listening to like what their challenges are, et cetera. And our business owners are very heavy in dealing with the COVID stuff. And so it's been such an interesting time. I'm like you though, in the sense that it's just so like exciting when I do sit down. It's been interesting because usually I blog so much that I have very little creative time. Right now I'm doing the opposite, where I'm spending a lot more time journaling, a lot more time on my own writing. And then I'm like, oh man, I got a blog I still have to post too. And so it's been really, I haven't been good at showing up on either of them. But so it is nice to hear that the Instagrams are at least inspiring other people. And you had mentioned that to me offline. And that's nice because I really have been speaking in trying to learn how to be my best client and speak from my heart, really show you guys the transition that I'm going through, because I coach from a place of going through it. So let's talk about, so you're in England and it's quiet over there. Things are very, it's the first time in history, maybe, I'm not sure if that's accurate, I'm not really a history buff, but where everybody across the globe really is going through this unified struggle at the same time. You know, I think go ahead.
I think it is the first time in history. We've all been saying that, really. I mean, we are making history as well, and that's another reason why it's so important to be creative right now, because you don't know I don't know, maybe it's a bit far-fetched to even say, but perhaps, 100 years time, who knows what people are going to be reading of what we've
Right.
accounted for now. So you just don't know, do you?
You really don't. And that's I actually was saying that to one of my clients a couple weeks ago, is like, it's not the time to rush to put stuff out there, but it's
Mhm.
definitely the time to start publishing snippets. I
Yeah.
never am a proponent of, I'm very big on the right timing for things.
Hmm.
So never do I recommend like, oh, get the poetry book out right now because people are reading poetry. Like, no, 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 no. But
Yeah.
take that poem that you know would never make it into the book and put it
Hmm.
out there so people can start hearing your voice, because so many
Exactly.
people wait, and it's like, oh, my biggest pet peeve is when people publish a book and it, like, all of a sudden they're not people anymore. All you ever hear about is the book.
Mm.
This is one of the biggest things that authors do wrong, and then they can't figure out why nobody's buying the book because they forgot who you are and unfollowed you because all they see 6 times a day is about the book.
I see that such a lot on so many of my social media feeds all the time. That's so true.
Yeah, you tend to be like, well, wait a second, what happened to the mother I knew or the friend I knew? Or, hey, the
Mhm.
whole reason I wanted to buy your book was that I loved your voice behind it. And now you don't show up with your voice anymore because you're worried about sales. And so
Yeah.
that's where, if you start ahead of time sharing your work from time to time,
Mhm.
then you grow with it. And so people start, it's interesting because it's almost like a marketing gimmick while still being who you are. People
Yeah,
start to
totally.
want what you're putting out there, like your covers. People want them, and that's totally marketing. It's
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
supposed to do. But at the
yeah,
same
totally.
time, now I'm so like, oh, I loved when she did Dream a Little Dream of Me, and I love when she did this song and that song. That one really sticks out to me because I really love that version. And
Yeah.
when you, I think you, did you do Imagine?
No, but I'm going to. God, that's
Are
funny
you?
that you said
Oh, that's
that. Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
do that. 100% in the pipeline. Maybe the next one, after the next one, I'm gonna do that. I think that is
Wow. Okay. I so want to hear you with that one then, because I'm visualizing that I listened to it already. So,
really. Wow,
okay. And I have a
really.
bad habit of like letting things out of the bag that I didn't even know were in the bag. So, warning if you decide to come on the show. So,
Yeah.
last week I asked a friend about a book that I so was like, oh my God, I'm not a good friend. I haven't bought it. Come to find out, like, no, that wasn't supposed to be talked about yet. Oops.
Oh no.
I'm like, okay. But so, oh man, that was too funny. Okay, imagine
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna ask a question and now I'm like, oh God, that freaked me out a little. Like, I so can hear you singing it. Um,
Spooky.
oh gosh, I forgot what I was gonna ask. Live on camera, these are off the cuff.
This happens.
Okay. Yeah, so I totally okay, so coming to, you are doing the covers. Do you
Yeah.
have any dates in the works? Because I know it's hard probably for a musician at this point because you can't really do the live stuff. Do you have any kind of dates or goals in the works for when you'll be releasing some of your own music?
Um, I haven't really. I'm so focused on doing the covers at the moment. What I'm waiting for is the possibility of connecting and collaborating with a musician, hopefully a guitarist. Because I think solo is fine, but I think there's more power in more people being involved. I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not the best guitarist either myself. I mean, I can do some covers and create my own work and everything, but I really want to focus more on my vocals. So if I could collaborate with a guitarist somehow, it's really difficult right now. But yeah, I haven't got any dates for anything like that because it's got to come from sort of meeting and connecting with other musicians, seeing where we go from there. But yeah, I have got lyrics and I have got some music in the pipeline that I'm kind of tweaking at the moment. But yeah, as I said, there's no deadlines for anything. There's no dates I can give at the moment. It's all about, it's, yeah, because of the pandemic, it's kind of hard to give dates and things. We just don't know what's going to happen the next day, really. So yeah, with
Yeah, that is hard all around with
yeah,
planning any kind
definitely,
of
yeah,
events. Yeah. So, all right, let's I know we're coming up on our hour. So,
yeah,
first of all, to any musicians watching, you've heard it. She's looking for a guitarist. So,
yeah.
if we're watching this someday, I'm going to learn how to cut the little snippets out so I can
Okay,
share them
yeah,
on Instagram.
oh, good, yeah,
That's one of my things like to learn during this
yeah,
pandemic. Hopefully, I'll learn it before it ends. But that's
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
something I
that's
would
good,
love to do more. Yeah, is to be able to
definitely.
share you guys because Instagram misses out on these. because
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
have the ability to clip it, or maybe I could just record it or something. I'll figure that out. It would be like low key way, the low
Cool.
budget way to do it.
Yeah, whatever. Just get it
But
out there.
I know, just that's the thing. Well, and that's how this whole thing started. It
Sure.
actually, this whole series started because I recorded an interview with a friend that was supposed to be handwritten, because I've been doing the typewritten ones for a
Hmm.
while. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm losing our entire personality trying to write this out. And she was like, go ahead and do the audio. And then her husband was my next interview, and he's like, let's do video. And so we started, and that was how John the Baptist and Juanita were the two that helped me, like that, how this whole series launched.
Oh,
And
they were
I was
great
just like,
interviews as well.
yeah, oh man, I loved working with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been fun, you know. Some of them are drier than others, and some of them we can't stay
Sure.
serious, but it's fun because it's helping us. Some of them are more chatty, some of them are more
Yeah.
interviewy, and so it's helping me learn and fine tune. And then it also
Mhm.
helps us all show up better on video, which is the
Oh,
new thing for
definitely.
marketing. And so you
Yeah.
learn where you're nervous. You know, like I touch my face a million times. I am fine
I never
all day
noticed.
long. Oh my gosh, the minute that video camera goes on, I did a
That's
panel
it.
last week. Everybody else is fine, me the whole time. I'm like, I mean, oh my gosh. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's your
As
thing.
soon as the interview was done and the panel was over, I had
Yeah.
another 2-hour Zoom meeting. Not a single time did I touch my nose.
Really?
I'm like, there is something about no, it's like that little recording up there in the corner. All of a sudden I'm like,
Because you
oh,
know it's.
boogers. Yeah. It's,
Oh my God.
I'm like,
You
this is
feel
ridiculous.
complex about it now, I think, and that's
I
why it's happening.
have. And it
Yeah.
happens all the time. And it's like public speaking 101, you don't touch your face. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm like, touch it, which is beautiful in the middle of a pandemic that spreads by touching your face.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm aware of it. I'm embracing it now. I'm just like going with
Definitely.
it. I'm like, it's one of my things. Tell us
That's good.
where we can find you, Susannah. So we have you on Ink Burns.
Yeah. Instagram at ink_burns. Facebook, I've got a writing page, and that's Ink Burns, and it's the only one on there. So just type in Ink Burns and you'll find it. And also, you can follow me on Facebook as well, Susannah Ford Crush. Twitter as well, and that's can't remember my Twitter. I hardly ever use Twitter these days. Actually, it's really weird. I'm probably on there under Ink Burns as well. So yeah, try that one out. But I'm not on there as much. It's mainly just Instagram and Facebook at the moment, to be honest. Kind of condensing things, and those two platforms work best for me anyway. So yeah, you can find me on those.
Okay, and then also on YouTube,
Yeah,
and I'll
YouTube.
link to it.
Yeah, you send a link to it, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I really need more subscribers. I really need more feedback. So people, if they could just, have a listen and let me know what they think. Any other musicians out there who fancy collaborating as well, then get in touch, definitely.
Yeah, and I definitely want to say that to the people watching this is, as artists, we value your feedback. So when we say
Yeah,
that,
totally.
there's this trend in Instagram where people just double tap and then, oh, that was beautiful. Oh, that was gorgeous. Oh, this hit me. Oh, that was powerful. That's not feedback. You do that to
It's not.
comment. It's great. It's supported. All support is encouraged and
Yeah,
appreciated.
sure.
But it
Yeah,
really helps, even if your opinion is different. It really
yeah,
helps to
definitely.
share actual feedback. Something I love to be able to do is when I don't see eye to eye, is say like, this was beautiful. It made me think of this. And here's
Yeah,
the other side. And it's amazing some of the collaborations you come up with, some of the friendships that develop out of
amazing.
like, hey, I mean, I think we even met, actually, now that I think about it, we
Yes.
didn't meet through your poetry. We met on
Yeah,
somebody else's page.
yeah.
There
Someone was.
was somebody who was like doing some stuff that maybe could feel like copyright issues, and we
Oh yeah,
had that conversation of where I was like, I'm not really sure that she means to do it, but it was actually
yeah,
Langston Hughes. If I
yeah.
remember right, it was
Right.
a Langston
I
Hughes
remember.
poem, and it was like, people really don't know who he is. Now that I think about it, it was the
It
Langston
was.
Hughes, and people were like, beautiful, that's so engaging, that's so powerful, oh, your words. And I'm like, oh my
There's no
god,
depth.
these people
No,
have no idea that this is like not her writing, it's Langston Hughes.
that
And then
really
that's
worried
when
me.
I realized from
Yeah.
each one, that's when I realized, like, okay, she's not trying to say these are her words.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she has a bunch of people following her who are not fully engaging. And so just to
Agree.
anybody watching this, and I know we're both on that same, even if you
Sure.
don't like it, I'd rather get a, hey, this really didn't touch me, I would have found more depth in this. Or, you know, and so like when I think of music, I have a friend who shares her music and says, what do you really think? You know what? That one didn't touch me as deeply. This one had me in tears. However, where I'm at in life, this would make me cry. This one wouldn't make me happy. And then you're able to get that, like, okay, well, hold on a second. If I'm writing music or poetry for somebody who's struggling and it didn't hit you at that point in life, well, now I know what I need to change. And that feedback is just, it's priceless. And
it's necessary,
don't
isn't
take time to give it anymore.
Yeah, we need that depth of communication, that depth of, to be honest, that depth of criticism as well. As long as it's constructive, we all know constructive criticism is where it's at. But yeah, it's necessary.
Need it. Yeah. I'm definitely somebody who very much owns my work, but I also have thick skin. So if I write something and you're like, oh God, that sucks, chances are I've already said that because I'm my worst critic.
Yeah,
you've already putting it right, and I've already gotten it. I've put on my alligator skin, and I've said, okay, let's see how I make this better. But I'm not an artist who will say, like, elicit that feedback. And maybe that's something more of us need to do who are like further along, to teach some of the younger folks, because it's like without that constructive criticism, I wouldn't be who I was. I would not be who I am if Mr. Gear did not say this report sucks.
And that stays
give me that chance. Yeah. If in 9th grade, 10th grade, I didn't have a chance to find out that I could write poems with the best of them and be like a nationally award-winning poet and all this other stuff. I remember like getting all these awards. And when he said this report sucks, I was like, have you not seen who I am? I was so cocky back then. I was so like not a nice person. But it's like, did you not know? Like, I'm sorry, I was just on the front page last week. How do you tell me that I suck? And it was like mind-blowing to me. It really was. At 15 years old, I was just like, what?
You needed that, right?
I needed that wake up because I would not be the writer. My entire career is based on writing. I would not be the writer and marketer that I am had he not ever said, dude, you cannot make a point to save your life.
Wow. Amazing,
and so in teaching me, it is. And so I really fear for the people today who aren't taking that time and who are living on this is beautiful, this is so powerful, this is
and that's all they got, right?
And it's like, no, it's copy and paste. They're going through 3,000 of them in 5 minutes.
You have a flip side, right? There's always got to be a flip side. You can't just live off of the positivity alone, because that's not going to shape you as much as the negativity. It's like going back to that point about pain, how necessary and important that is creatively. You need a little bit of that kind of as an anchor in a way. And it will shape you and balance out your creativity so much better, I think, definitely.
Yes, we all need that moment where you're like, she said my work sucked. Wait, what? And like having that moment where you're like, okay, what is it that I can do better? How do I show up? And looking around, like when I used to teach people public speaking and how to do presentations, I would say, always think about the questions that will be left at the end. In books, I tell you that, like with my coaching clients, I'm like, what questions do I still have at the end? Because if you don't know what's there at the end of that poem, what happens is now you've left your audience with questions that you haven't anticipated. And they may not come back because there's too many. But if you know what the questions are, you can either follow up with another poem, you can address it in the caption, you can follow up in the book. You know, you that's what epilogues and intros are for. There's so many prologues, like the word just escaped me. But you know, that's what these different elements are for. And so I definitely encourage. So just to wrap this all up, it sounds like negativity is definitely a space that we all create from, but we need some more positivity in the world. Not promising you'll see this from Susannah and I, but definitely we'll try. We'll smile as we bring the love poems about broken hearts. And then also definitely critiquing more. I love that we went into that because feedback is just so invaluable. We all need it, and it helps us all become better artists. And so the younger people watching this, older folks watching it, people our age, enjoy and embrace that feedback, because it's a beautiful thing when we can collaborate as artists and truly give that in-depth, like, this is what it made me think about. So I hope that this encourages everyone who is here, and then both you and I, just to show up that little bit. We all have time right now, even those of us who lost time because the kids are home. We now have time to be a little slower Maybe you
Yeah.
only interact with 20 people on Instagram today in your 5 hours, but let them be meaningful ones, because
It's so important.
if we can do that, this is such a great time to establish some really good bonds, so that when the doors are unleashed and people can go outside again and collaborate, you'll have developed those relationships that will
Mhm.
allow you to collaborate from a better place. You'll have figured
Definitely.
out if they can handle the criticism, because boy, that would be terrible, right? To like collaborate with somebody and then you find out they're not very good at it. So
Oh God,
like
that's
with
not,
the criticism, right? And it's like, oh, okay, hold on a second, but we're looking for that so we can get that.
yeah,
So I will make sure that I share the links below in the YouTube information. If I was my daughter, I'd be saying, look down there. But
yeah.
um, so look below and you'll get all of the information on where to find Susannah. And Susannah, thank you so much for joining me. I think I was telling you beforehand, you're my first across the pond, as well
Yeah.
as my first person who I've only met like weeks ago on Instagram
No,
and
right.
had a
Amazing.
talk with so quickly. So thank you for being willing to jump in.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it and I've been so excited about it for so long now. So it's great. I've had a great time. Thank you, Shell, for everything. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Bye.